Obi-Wan Kenobi returned this week with a huge episode that saw the return of Darth Vader as the Dark Lord gets heavily involved in the search for Kenobi and Leia. Much like the first two episodes, Obi-Wan's internal struggle was at the forefront here, even more so now after last week's episode where he learned that Anakin is still alive, and that is sitting very heavily with the character, and I like that he keeps seeing Anakin everywhere he goes, which is a great opportunity of course to get Hayden Christensen back in the costume, which looks fantastic. But on top of that, we also have him out of his comfort zone. You know, he's away from Tatooine and his safe cave, and he's being actively hunted by Inquisitors, and every choice he makes he has to do like a calculated decision to make sure he and Leia don't get caught again. Ben and Leia's relationship also continues to grow in some really fantastic ways, and I like how Ben is very pained to have her around and be around and interact with her because of how much she reminds him of Padme and Anakin. And we get it here in this episode where he sort of makes up a story about like how they're farmers and their mother died and everything, but obviously he's talking about Padme and you can tell he's really upset by it and everything. But I like that no matter all of this sort of stuff, he continues to do right by her and help her and kind of shield her from what he is as a Jedi as well as what her father became. If the last two episodes were very much Western themed, you know, Proposition, assassination of Jesse James, this episode was very much a horror themed episode, as much of it was Ben and Leia on the run with their new friend Tala trying to get off of Mapuzo, a mining planet that the trader ship took them to at the end of the last episode. And they are trying to do this before the Inquisitors find them, but not only that, before Darth Vader finds them. And Darth Vader factors very heavily into this episode, with the Dark Lord making a big appearance after Reva alerts him to Kenobi's location. And we actually get a cool little moment where Reva is definitely working directly for Darth Vader, and she continues to be a thoroughly interesting character, and I'm enjoying the little bits of her character we're getting in each of these episodes. Her hatred for Obi-Wan Kenobi continues to build, and from the tidbits we've gotten and seen so far, I'm definitely leaning towards that she was a Padawan, maybe that we saw in that opening of the first episode, who was abandoned by Obi-Wan Kenobi, or like feels like she was abandoned because of his message about running and hiding and backing down from the fight or something. So I'm intrigued to see what they do with this character, and it does feel like they're setting up her for some sort of redemption arc where she might end up helping Obi-Wan at the end and Vader ends up killing her. However, I do feel like that might be just a retread of Trilla's storyline from Fallen Order, since that's kind of sort of what happened there. It's a little bit different in that Trilla turned like moments before she was killed by Darth Vader, so we'll just see how it plays out. The big draw of the episode, and one I know I'm going to see plastered all over social media and everywhere, is Obi-Wan and Vader's lightsaber battle, and I think it's done pretty perfectly. You have this out of training Obi-Wan who hasn't touched his saber or turned it on in 10 years versus Darth Vader, who has spent the last 10 years butchering Jedi and being full of the dark side. I love just how futile and kind of chaotic it feels, with Ben barely holding his own against Vader, who is practically holding him back with one hand. And I like Ben was just trying to escape, but it's not an escape just to let him live, it's kind of him escaping what he has done to Vader, because he's the reason Vader is in that costume and in that suit. So I like it's sort of him trying to like get away from the ghosts of his past, but it never works. The fight also ends in a really fittingly brutal way, with Vader deciding he's going to get some revenge on Obi-Wan and literally drags him across like flaming glass shards and burns him. And it's brilliant and cruel, and definitely something you could see Vader doing. And Vader in this entire episode is brilliantly cruel all throughout it. He's like killing kids in this town, and I like that his entrance is very much like his Rogue One entrance, and it's even kind of framed the way where he's like sort of moving down this main street of a mining town and just killing people left and right as he moves down to try and lure Obi-Wan out. While played by Hayden Christensen, Vader is again also voiced by James Earl Jones, who voiced him all through the original trilogy and Rogue One and some of the cartoons. And I do have a feeling feeling that there was some sort of AI voice stuff happening, like what happened with Luke in the Book of Boba Fett, since certain words sound exactly as he said them in the OT, and that was probably like them sampling that sort of stuff from the original trilogy, but it was still really brilliant and I loved every minute of Vader on screen. The show also develops a great look at very early rebellion stuff with Tala and the Path, a network that hides and ferries Force sensitives and other people of interest away from the Empire and to safety. Quinlan Vos, a Jedi that everyone really kind of likes, and he's been in the Clone Wars and he's in the background of some of the movies, gets a name drop here, which was really unexpected and very welcome, and I love the moment that Obi-Wan saw his name, since there was a brief second when he saw it and said his name that he had hope come back into him, and his voice kind of like picked up a notch, and it was great seeing him learn that one of his friends from the Jedi Order actually survived after seeing so many die. It was a beautiful little moment. Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 3 continues the show's solemn tone and character development, exploring Obi-Wan's broken and grief-stricken mind as Darth Vader makes his dark presence felt throughout the entire episode, and the Princess Leia plotline takes a nice diversion thanks to Reva. I'm going to give this episode a 10 out of 10.